Well, all right then. Welcome back. If you are coming back, and if you're here for the first time, welcome to Bloomwork and BloomTalks. So I'm Charlie.
Linda Bloom here.
And we're here to talk to you today about something that we refer to as overgiving. And we're going to talk about some of the symptoms of overgiving. And if you are an overgiver, or if you're in relationship with an overgiver, this might be of value to you. If you're not, it still might be of value to you, because we're going to be talking about some other things too. One of them is undergiving, because when people are overgiving, they experience certain symptoms, like resentful. They start feeling resentful. They start feeling sorry for themselves. They feel kind of overloaded. What else?
Grouchy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. I forgot.
Irritable.
About that. That's right. And sometimes the person who's the recipient of the grouchiness and irritability starts asking themselves, well, what did I do to make him feel that way? Or what it is that I caused her to have this attitude? Or sometimes they can just get grouchy and irritable back.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that it's a good idea to be aware of some of those symptoms, because when we do experience that, we need to be aware of what it is that we might be doing that is contributing to our feelings, that we have something to do with it, that it's not just that these things are happening to us that are causing us to be upset, or to feel sorry for ourselves, or to get into these reactive patterns that can really easily create conflict and difficulty and defensiveness. But if we can connect the dots and see that, maybe I have been going a little too far in terms of wanting to please people, or wanting to accommodate expectations, or wanting to do things that have caused other people to feel a certain way and to cause me to feel a certain way, then, we can kind of nip things in the bud.
Mm-hmm. So we tend to want to feel that we're kind, that we're generous, that we're in service, and that we're that way pretty consistently with all the important people in our life. And it certainly is a beautiful quality to be in service and to be kind and generous. But we can go overboard, and we can give too much, where it starts to take it out of our own selves, where we're not drawing our boundaries clearly enough and saying, I can give this much, but I can't go any farther than that. And so it really takes some self-assessment to see how much can we give with a pure heart. So that's in our romantic partnerships, with our kids, with our family members, in the workplace. Because if we don't honor those boundaries, draw them clearly, continue to take a stand about those boundaries, about this is the amount that I can give gladly, happily. It's coming from a pure well. If we start giving more than we really can do gracefully, that's when we're going to start feeling grouchy and grumpy and resentful, and feel like other people are doing it to me and I'm the poor victim here. That can happen in the workplace. It can happen with our kids. They want a lot from us. They want a lot of attention, and they got a handful of gimme. And so we have to be really clear with them how much we can give and how much we really need to keep in reserve for ourselves, because we're not good for other people unless we're taking good care of ourselves. So it takes some real self-assessment to do it well.
Yeah, and just becoming aware that I'm lacking in certain self-care practices, and just to become aware that I need to be taking better care of myself isn't necessarily enough, because we can recognize that, but we've all got certain competing commitments that cause us to do things sometimes that are not in our best interest. So, it really is important that we become aware of what some of those things are. So, one of the factors that we notice for a lot of us can cause us to overgive, or to do things that to go beyond what's comfortable or right or healthy for us. One of the things that can get in the way of doing that is sometimes we have patterns from our childhood that have in which we've learned to subordinate our own needs for other people. We've learned that it's really best that we put their needs and their preferences in front of our own, and that we subordinate our own in the hopes that at some point it'll come back to us, that they will be able to provide for us, or that we can just get over it, and we can get away with it. And we can get away with it for a while, but when it becomes a habit, when it becomes something that we see it as something that we need to do on an ongoing basis, that's when things can really get difficult, because we're going to deplete our own inner reserves. And if they're not replenished by what we're giving ourselves or what's coming into us, if there's not a balance that is at least making up for what's going out, then we're going to experience these symptoms that we talked about. And another thing that can really get in our way of doing what it is that we need to do to take better care of ourselves is that we may have a fear, or we may have multiple fears, that if I don't give at the level that I'm giving, if I don't take care of people in the way that they expect me to, in a way that they have come to see that this is something that they can count on, they can expect me to subordinate some of my own needs in favor of theirs, then they may not be particularly pleased with my declaration that I'm going to take better care of myself. Mm-hmm. Because that could mean that, to them anyway, that could mean that, well, wait a minute, I still need you to do these things and be this way for me. So we may have some fears or some concerns that if I don't do that, if I don't continue in these behaviors, there's going to be some undesirable negative consequences and reactions from them. So we've got to really take a look at all of these things.
And be willing to pay the price that they may be displeased, they may disapprove, they may want to do some change back maneuvers, where's the generous woman that I partnered with. And we may need to take some heat when we draw those boundaries. Now, this is tricky. It's tricky because there's a part of us that wants to draw the boundaries. And like Charlie said, there's a part of us that's afraid to. There's a part of us that wants to step up to the plate to be more responsible about the way we relate to all the important people in our life. And there's a part that is holding back about that. So this is part of the process, is the demand, actually, the challenge of first telling the truth to ourselves. Because when we're listening in on our grumbling mind, we may be hearing they're doing it to us. They're insisting that I overwork on the job, that I stay too many hours. And I'm not saying that there isn't truth there in what the kids and our family members and the people at work want from us. I'm just saying that the locus of power remains with us. And if we're really going to shift the system and not live in that kind of ongoing simmering resentment, then we are going to see how we're responsible. So you see how this is tricky? it's tricky because it's not that they don't have any responsibility at all. They probably do. But if we put the accent and we put the emphasis on the part that's mine, I haven't been clear enough about renegotiating my boundaries. I haven't been clear enough that I need time alone, in solitude, or I must go to my workout class. I must go to the gym. I must do my yoga practice. I must do my meditation, or I must be in nature. If we haven't taken a stand, then we're not taking maximum level responsibility to shift the system, which granted can be difficult because people come to expect things from us. But we have power, and if we use it, the system can give way to a better one, a more high functioning one.
Yeah, this whole idea that Linda just mentioned of people have these expectations of us. We kind of co-created that agreement, and it may not be explicit. We may not have actually spoken those words that, when I'm upset or when I'm depressed, that you're going to be there in a certain way for me, that we've taken on. Again, this is an example of something that some of us have taken on as kids, that we feel this sense of duty or obligation to be there, to cheer this parent up, or to support them when they need it, particularly if they're not getting it from their partner, our other parent. So we may not have experienced ourselves as having made this agreement, and it may not even feel like an agreement. It may just feel like an expectation that's always been there. And so we have to be willing to recognize that this expectation is there. I have it of myself, they have it of me, I have it of them, that they're going to reciprocate in some way. And it's a setup. It's a setup for resentment, for disappointment, for anger. And because it's not entirely in our consciousness, it's something that we really can't talk about because we don't recognize that it's there. But we can recognize the symptoms. And that's why we started this talk about the symptoms of feeling overburdened, of feeling like I've been giving more than what I'm getting back. And the point that Linda's making, I think, is really important, that when we do introduce this conversation, when we do start talking about it, that we don't present it as something that this person is doing that's making us feel this way, but to talk about what we're experiencing and what we're seeing and how we've neglected some of our own needs in doing some of the things that we're doing. And we don't necessarily have to make any kind of an overt declaration to them that I am no longer going to take care of you in this way, or I'm not going to be here for you, and you can't count on me to provide this anymore. But what we can do is we can just get really clear within ourselves about where our lines are and be more willing at times when we need to decline an implicit or explicit expectation or request that we're going to do this. A lot of us are just so accustomed to accommodating people that when somebody says, hey, can you do this for me? Can you do me a favor? Can you handle this? Our response is, well, we ask ourselves, can I? Sometimes we'll ask ourselves, is it possible? Most of the time it is possible. But the real question is this going to work for you to do this, to drive me to the airport, or to pick this up for me on your way home? And for those of us who have automatically said yes to any request that comes our way without even thinking about it, a practice that can be really helpful is just to give ourselves permission whenever anybody asks us anything, no matter how small it is, to give ourselves permission to check in and ask ourselves, is this something that I can do and feel okay with it? Can I do this without feeling resentful? Can I do this without having any expectations of getting anything back? And if the answer is yes, then it's no problem. But if we have been saying yes automatically without even thinking about it, we're probably going to have to be willing to risk saying no. And so why does it feel like a risk to say no?
Well, they may think badly of us. They may judge us as a selfish taker. And if we define ourselves
After all
as a
I've done for
generous,
you, is
yeah,
this so much to ask for? Why can't
it's
you
risky.
do this? I mean, it's such a big
There are
deal.
good reasons we haven't been drawn those boundaries clearly enough before, because we're afraid that maybe they're going to disapprove. Maybe they're going to leave us.
Maybe they're going to get angry. Maybe they're going to get hurt.
Maybe they're going to make us pay.
Maybe they're
going to judge us.
Yeah.
So it's risky. But I just want to reaffirm, and everybody who's ever done a class with us knows that we believe that you do not have to be defined by your history, both from childhood and adulthood, that every day is a new beginning. If you become clear that you need to grow some courage to draw your boundaries more clearly, to protect and defend yourself more efficiently, to risk saying some no's. Before I learned the phrase compassionate self-care and responsible self-care, I called it healthy selfishness. That there is a time where we must be self-respectful and we must be self-honoring, and that we need to take care of ourselves so that what we give is going to be pure, what we offer to other people. So we're not defined by our past. And yes, it does take some will, some intention, some commitment to change the old habits, but we do it gradually. You can't do it all in one fell swoop. And there are certain aspects of the change that can happen that add up over time. One is to not beat ourselves up when we tell the truth about how we've overcommitted and how we've given too much and we haven't really been honest about what we can give from the pure place. And to be forgiving of ourselves for the system that we've set up. Another thing that's really important is also to apologize to the people who we may have been indulging. It isn't good for the relationship. It's not good for us. It's not good for them. And tell them that we're sincerely sorry about the system that we've been colluding with, and that we would like to shift it now. And those two things together can really move us ahead in having a relationship that is characterized by gratitude and appreciation. There's a couple more things that are really helpful in addition to the apology and the forgiveness. Asking for help. Some of us are two working parents. We're still raising kids. We may need to triangle in another person for house care, for child care, so that we can have some time to ourselves as a couple and as an individual. And sometimes people are a little stingy with themselves about not asking for help. And to renegotiate your agreements is a really important one. To tell the truth about this isn't quite working for me any longer, and I'd like to make some changes, and I'd like to renegotiate the agreement because I'm feeling overcommitted. The one last thing that I want to offer, and I was sometimes suffer in silence, honoring the long-suffering martyrs in my lineage, and I wouldn't ask for the appreciation that I needed. And when I started to tell the truth about feeling overburdened and unappreciated, you were willing to give me some gratitude and appreciation, and it made such a difference. I felt seen, I felt valued, and it made the giving that I was doing easier for me because it wasn't just taken for granted. And I really appreciate myself for going public with my prayer to ask you, and for your generosity of spirit to recognize how much that meant to me.
Yeah, well, thank you for acknowledging that. But you know what I was thinking, I know we don't have too much time left, but maybe we could do a very brief kind of a role play here about dealing with it when you have fixed in yourself the willingness and the courage to say no, and your partner really gets upset because, hey, that is not the way this game has been played for the last 20 years. And how to, like, you could be the person who is upset, and I could be the one who says that's not going to work for me, and you can get angry at me, and we can demonstrate what it can look like or how you can respond to somebody's understandable anger when they don't get what they're accustomed to getting.
So what is it that you're thinking of changing, Charlie?
No, I'm just telling you that, I know that you wanted me to pick up a couple of things at the grocery store. But I don't really have time in between going to the gym, and I don't want to miss the workout today because I missed it yesterday. So I'm just not going to.
So it's okay for me to miss my gym workout?
No, I'm not saying that you have to miss it. I'm just saying that it's not going to work for me to accommodate your request. Now maybe we can work it out some other way. I'm not saying now you have to do it. I'm just saying that's not going to work for me. So,
okay. So we're just going to open up a can of soup because I'm not going to the grocery store. If you can't do it, so be it.
Well, yeah. Okay. I understand. I understand that you're
very lightweight kind of a dinner.
Yeah. No, I hear the anger in your voice, and I can understand.
Martyr myself and miss my workout.
Can I say something?
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for letting me say something. Yeah. No, I'm not surprised that you're upset because I know most of the time, and I know you know it, most of the time when you ask me to do something, I do it. I don't even think about it. Yeah, if I can, of course, I will. But you know what? I realize that I'm starting to feel resentful sometimes, not because you're asking me, but because I'm denying myself the time that I need for other things. And I think I'm overdoing it. So
okay.
I'm just trying to break that habit.
I'm sorry that I was grouchy at you. You didn't deserve that. I appreciate your being honest with me. Thank you for telling me the truth. You're feeling a little overburdened today, and I'm telling you I am too. So nobody's going to the grocery store. And I'd much rather that you tell me the truth rather than martyr yourself. And then I end up, getting some grouchiness or coldness and silence out of you later.
Well, this is certainly refreshing. And often we've had these exchanges in the past, and it has taken a lot longer than this to get to this point. But here we only have 5 minutes.
I've been paying attention.
We have to get to it quicker.
I can put the repair in quickly with myself as long as I'm not playing. He gets to win by having free time to go to the gym, and I'm the sacrificing martyr here that I'll give up my gym workout to do whatever it is that needs to be done. And I'm okay. Both of us can get to the gym. No groceries will be purchased today. As far as I'm concerned, I'd rather have the harmony with you and eat cereal and milk for dinner. We don't have to shop.
Okay. All right. So for those of you who said, yeah, that's great. It seems like you fast forwarded it to the end. And we did. But sometimes, you can work through it that quickly, depending upon how willing each person is to take responsibility for having contributed to the breakdown and contributed to the disappointment and for coming up with a possibility that can work for both people. Sometimes it takes longer than that, sometimes it doesn't. But the point is that when you feel this way, what we want to leave you with here is to acknowledge what you're feeling without blame and judgment, to take responsibility that I'm feeling this way and I own my part in it. I see why you would feel upset and disappointed. And I see why I'm feeling resentful and sorry for myself. And I'm really committed to interrupting this pattern that we have co-created. I'm not saying it's your fault.
Mm-hmm.
I've played as big a part in it as you have, by setting myself up to have expectations that if I fulfill your expectations, everything's going to be fine because you're going to then, the routine.
And if you fall back into the old pattern, because it's fits and starts when we change our behaviors, growth is not a steady, up level.
Trajectory.
Yeah. So when we fall back, and I felt back in that little role play into feeling put upon, that he was asking too much of me. And so fall down, get up, begin again. And maybe you can't put the correction in a minute or 2 minutes. Maybe you have to go off by yourself, and then you come back and you have another conversation and you say, I'm feeling too burden myself right now. I honor that, you're trying to unburden yourself by renegotiating this agreement to go to the grocery store, but I'm not going to take it on because I'm feeling like I'm flat out myself. And that we can, if we're paying close attention, do the repair pretty quickly and get so on it that we don't even have to have the breakdown, because internally we've already made the shift so that we can avoid the argument altogether when you get really good at it.
So this applies to all relationships. And of course, the relationship with a primary partner is one that it's going to come up with probably more frequently than just about any other one, except in a relationship at work. Because there are expectations that we have agreed to fulfill in order to stay in good standings on our job, or sometimes in order not to get fired. So we can't just say, this isn't going to work for me anymore if we have this understanding, because the consequences can be pretty severe, and we're not encouraging anybody out there to make ultimatums with anybody, but particularly in a primary relationship or at work. But we do have to be aware of what we can do without compromising our own well-being. We do have to know where our lines are, and we do have to be willing to risk the possibility that this relationship might change. I might even have to risk losing this relationship. And I'm not saying, again, I'm not saying to make an ultimatum and threaten somebody, but to really be mindful that there are good reasons why we have been accommodating, and the consequences to non-accommodation can be pretty extreme. So don't kid yourself. But also, if you handle it responsibly, there's a much, much better chance that things can not only continue in that relationship, but they can improve. And
That's
so
right.
will your health, by the way.
So my closing remark is, I would like to testify that it is possible over time, with tremendous effort, commitment, and intention, to get a permanent victimectomy. Okay.
I'll leave you with that one.
So we want to invite you to tell your friends to follow us on Facebook. If they want to tune into the Facebook Live talks, they're all archived. If you have friends who don't play on Facebook, they can see them on YouTube. And we want to announce to you the topic of the Valentine's season is beginning. Tomorrow is February, and we are speaking on February 7th, the topic of vows, making vows and renewing vows. Don't underestimate the power of vows. And if you haven't sent us your email address so that we can send you the download link for our free ebooks, don't miss them. They're quite wonderful and valuable.
All right. See you later.
All the best.